Have you ever wondered why mystery feels more magnetic than perfection, and why being too nice, too available, too open kills attraction before it even begins? In this video, you're going to discover truths that most people will never tell. Because understanding them makes you impossible to manipulate and dangerously hard to forget. What you're about to hear is not recycled advice. It's raw psychology, distilled from the dark corners of seduction, power, and human behavior. Stay until the end, because each idea builds on the next. And by the time you finish, you'll start to see every interaction, every relationship, every word through new eyes. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe to Dark Psyche Vision, hit like, and drop a comment sharing the moment that hit you hardest. Your voice keeps this movement alive, and someone out there might find the truth they've been avoiding in your words. Now take a breath, because what comes next will change the way you see desire and the way desire sees you. Chapter 1. Magnetic Darkness. Why mystery attracts more than perfection. Perfection is predictable. It reassures, impresses, dazzles for a moment, and then it dies. But mystery lives. It lingers, vibrates, pulls you in like gravity. Mystery is the slow burn behind every obsession, the unsolved riddle behind every face you can't forget. In a world desperate to be understood, the one who withholds becomes magnetic. We live in an age of oversharing. Everyone is screaming their thoughts, documenting every meal, every mood, every confession. The algorithm rewards exposure. But the psyche hungers for the opposite, for the unseen, the untold, the slightly out of reach. That's where seduction begins. What we can't fully grasp, we imagine. And imagination is always more intoxicating than information. Think of a text left unanswered for an hour. The silence is louder than any response. Your mind starts writing possibilities. Did they lose interest? Are they busy? Are they testing me? That tension between knowing and not knowing. That's the field where desire grows. Mystery weaponizes absence. It gives the other person room to project their fantasies, to fill in the gaps with their own longing. Selective silence isn't manipulation, it's art, it's pacing. It's knowing when to speak and when to let the echo do the work. Every great seducer, every charismatic leader, every magnetic personality knows this instinctively. Reveal just enough to spark curiosity, then step back. A full reveal kills. The story. What you hide defines you more than what you show. The paradox is simple. People chase not what's perfect, but what's incomplete. The more flawless you seem, the less human you feel. The more unpredictable you are, the more real you become. Perfection triggers admiration. Mystery triggers pursuit. And pursuit is where attraction breathes. Imagine two people in conversation. One explains everything, over-clarifies, fills every pause. The other listens, tilts their head, smiles slightly, answers with half a sentence, then lets the silence stretch. The second person wins without trying, because silence, in the right hands, is dominance. It forces the other to lean in, to interpret, to work for meaning. That work creates investment, and investment creates attachment. Mystery also carries moral weight. It tells the world, I am not fully available. You don't get all of me just because you asked. That boundary radiates power. The magnetic person doesn't withdraw out of fear, they withhold out of choice. It's not distance, it's discipline. There's a reason villains in stories often feel more seductive than heroes. Heroes explain themselves. Villains reveal themselves slowly through glances, contradictions, paradoxes. They hold emotional tension like a secret flame. They invite you to interpret them, and in doing so, you become entangled. That's the dark art of magnetic mystery. It lets others participate in creating your image. You become a mirror for their imagination. But mystery isn't about playing games. It's about control. You decide what remains private. You decide when revelation feels earned. Oversharing is emotional dumping. Mystery is emotional editing. It's not withholding truth. It's choosing what truth serves the story. There's also a rhythm to mystery. Show, conceal, hint, retreat. Think of it like a dance, each step forward matched by a pause. In communication, that means not replying instantly, not explaining. Every emotion, not reacting to every provocation. When you delay, you create contrast. The other person experiences a small loss of control, and that loss breeds fascination. In seduction, the reveal should never be complete. There should always be another layer, another door slightly ajar, not deceit but depth. True mystery doesn't hide emptiness, it hides abundance. It's the quiet confidence of someone who knows they are more than they need to show. The dark seducer uses ambiguity as color, not camouflage. Their words mean two things. Their looks last half a second longer than expected. They smile in a way that invites interpretation. Ambiguity isn't lying, it's suggestion. It lets meaning breathe. It lets desire loop in the mind like an unfinished melody. When people say there's just something about them, that something is usually restraint, the refusal to explain, the courage to let silence do the seducing. Perfection is final. Mystery is alive. Perfection ends a story. Mystery begins one. If you want to become unforgettable, stop trying to be understood in every moment. Instead, cultivate presence without full disclosure. Be warm, but not transparent. Be open, but not available. Give glimpses, not blueprints, because what you protect, people pursue. What you flood, they abandon. The magnetic force isn't in the spotlight. It's in the shadow that the spotlight can't reach. And here's the final paradox. The mystery you project must be rooted in authenticity. If there's no depth behind your silence, it becomes emptiness, not allure. True mystery isn't performance, it's self-possession. It's knowing you don't have to prove, justify, or compete. You are the secret that explains itself through presence, not words. So next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, pause. Next time you want to fill the silence, let it breathe. Someone, somewhere, is already imagining what you're not saying, and that imagination is the beginning of their obsession. Chapter 2. The Predator's Smile. Reading, Power Through Charm. Every predator smiles, but not every smile means warmth. Sometimes a smile is camouflage, a shimmer of light over teeth designed to look harmless until it's too late. The most dangerous people in any room are rarely the loud ones. They are the charming ones, the ones who disarm, mirror, soften, and then slowly take control while you're still busy feeling flattered. Charm is often mistaken for kindness, but charm is not moral. It's tactical. It's the art of reading what someone craves to feel, then delivering it with perfect timing. That's why charming people feel magnetic. They don't just talk, they tune. They adjust their words, tone, and eyes to your frequency until you feel seen, maybe even special. What you don't realize is that your openness is now being measured, mapped, and quietly redirected. In Dark Seduction, charm is the first veil. It doesn't overpower. It seduces compliance. Think of it as the velvet wrapping around the blade. It's the gentle laugh that lowers your guard, the touch on the arm that communicates safety, the compliment that lands just right, specific, enough to feel real, vague enough to be reusable. The predator's smile is efficient. It's a tool for control disguised as connection. But here's the unsettling truth. Charm isn't always malicious. It's power, and power itself is neutral. The difference lies in intent. When the charming person uses warmth to create comfort, that's empathy. When they use warmth to create obedience, that's manipulation. The trick is that both feel identical in the moment. That's why recognizing charm's deeper signals is survival, not cynicism. You can often spot the predator's smile by what happens after it fades. Do you feel expanded or slightly smaller, empowered or subtly managed? True charm leaves you more yourself. False charm edits you into something useful. If every interaction with someone feels like you're being auditioned for a role, you probably are. In power psychology, this is called effective control, the ability to steer emotions before steering actions. A predator doesn't need to shout. They smile until you hand them the keys yourself. They weaponize your natural social instincts, your wish to be liked, your fear of awkwardness, your reflex to mirror warmth. You obey before you realize you've agreed. Look at leaders who rose without resistance. at lovers who controlled through adoration, at bosses who built loyalty with effortless charisma. Their charm wasn't accidental. It was precision engineering. They knew that a smile can buy more obedience than a threat. Fear forces resistance. Charm buys cooperation. Fear is expensive. Charm is free. The dark seducer's charm follows a pattern. First they study, listening more than speaking, mirroring your pace, repeating your phrasing. Then they disarm, sharing a vulnerability that feels intimate but costs them nothing. Finally they anchor, tying your emotions to them with subtle reinforcement. Praise, validation, relief. The moment you start depending on their approval, the trap has closed. They don't need to demand, you'll anticipate. But here's where you can reclaim your power. The same awareness that exposes the tactic can neutralize it. Watch what your body does around charm. If you feel pulled forward too quickly, slow down. If you feel flattered too easily, question why. Ask yourself, are they seeing me? Or are they scanning me? Real connection is mutual. Manipulation is extractive. The difference lies in who ends up lighter and who ends up drained. To protect yourself, learn to separate tone from substance. Listen less to how someone speaks, more to what they're actually saying. Charm thrives in emotional fog. It dies in clarity. When someone charms you, pause, smile back, and ask a question that requires specifics. Predators stumble when asked for detail. Their charisma loses oxygen, and when it's you who holds the charm, wield it with ethics. Because charm, when stripped of exploitation, is just social grace amplified by awareness. You can use it to calm, to guide, to heal, but never to own. Once you use charm to dominate, it stops being art. It becomes predation. In the end, the predator's smile teaches us something vital. People are not disarmed by power. They are disarmed by empathy that isn't real. The most seductive weapon in the world is the illusion of safety. If you can see through that illusion, no one can own you. So the next time someone smiles perfectly, too perfectly, don't look at their mouth. Look at their eyes. True warmth dilates pupils and softens the gaze. False warmth calculates angles. One invites you in, the other appraises your worth. Learn to feel the difference, and you'll never confuse charm for love again. Because in the dance of dark seduction, the predator's smile isn't the moment of danger. It's the opening act. The true threat comes when you forget that charm is a mirror, not a window. And by the time you realize you've been staring at your own reflection, the game has already begun. Chapter 3. Emotional Gravity. How to pull people into your orbit. Every magnetic person carries a certain weight, not in words, not in looks, but in presence. When they enter a room, the atmosphere shifts. People glance up without knowing why. Conversations slow. There's something in them that doesn't chase, doesn't rush, doesn't seek permission. It's gravity. Emotional gravity. And like real gravity, you don't see it. You feel its pull. This pull isn't built from noise, it's built from stillness. The most powerful people don't scatter energy, they condense it. Their emotions don't spill into every corner, they gather inward, forming a quiet center of control. In a world addicted to reaction, stillness is dominance. When you can hold your own mood like a mountain holds the sky, everyone else begins to orbit you. Look around you. The loud ones often vanish first. Their impact evaporates as soon as they leave. But the quiet ones linger. The ones who pause before speaking, whose attention feels expensive, whose silence feels like an invitation and a test at the same time. That's not mystery alone. It's density. They've learned to keep their emotional mass heavy enough that others bend around. So how do you build that kind of gravity? You stop scattering. Every time you over-explain, you lose weight. Every time you seek validation, you leak presence. Every time you fill silence out of fear, you trade energy for comfort. True gravity begins when you stop trying to be understood and start being felt. It's in the eye contact you don't break, in the breath you hold just a fraction longer, in the moment you let someone else rush to fill the gap you left empty. The dark seducer understands this. Attraction isn't about motion, it's about stillness. Motion chases, Stillness draws. Think about the people who made you obsessed. They didn't overwhelm you with affection. They calibrated it. They gave just enough warmth to keep you hoping, then withdrew into calm indifference. That rhythm, approach, retreat, stillness, is emotional. Gravity at work. It triggers curiosity, longing, even frustration, which are all forms of psychological tension. And tension is the electricity of seduction. Emotional gravity isn't arrogance, it's mastery of attention. You become the focal point not by demanding it, but by becoming the calmest person in chaos. Others seek your emotional temperature to regulate their own. That's why leaders, lovers, and manipulators all rely on the same principle. Whoever controls the emotional climate controls the room. But there's danger here. Gravity can nourish or it can crush. Some people use their emotional stability to comfort. Others use it to dominate. The difference lies in empathy. If your stillness invites others to breathe, it's power with grace. If your stillness freezes them in anxiety, it's power as cruelty. You must know which one you're cultivating. You can test your gravity easily. Watch how people behave after you leave. Do they feel calmer or more frantic? Do they miss your grounding or feel relieved? To escape it, gravity that empowers is remembered fondly. Gravity that suffocates becomes a warning. To build the right kind of pull, cultivate inner fullness. People with real depth attract because they don't need. Their conversations are not extraction, they're exchange. Their silences aren't manipulative, they're restful. The world feels safer yet more alive around them. That's the paradox of true seduction, safety and danger woven in the same thread. So practice stillness as discipline. Don't reply to every message instantly. Don't rush to fill every pause. Don't volunteer every truth. Sit in the tension until others reveal themselves, because whoever can wait wins. The impatient lose power by exposing their hunger. The composed become the standard everyone else measures themselves against. And here's the secret most never see. Gravity comes from authenticity. You can fake confidence, but you can't fake weight. Emotional gravity grows from self-knowledge, knowing your fears, your flaws, your desires so deeply that they no longer leak out uncontrolled. When you stop needing validation, you stop orbiting others, and they start orbiting you, so slow your rhythm. Speak less, mean more. Let silence follow your words like smoke. Look people in the eyes not to read them, but to hold them in your calm. Let them feel that your attention is both rare and selective. That's what makes it precious. Because attraction isn't about perfection, it's about energy. And energy that's grounded, restrained, and deliberate pulls everything toward it. That's the dark truth of charisma. The one who needs nothing commands everything. You don't chase light. You become the mass it bends around. That's emotional gravity. The kind of power that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't seduce. It simply exists, and the world rearranges itself in response. Chapter 4. The Silent Invitation. What absence communicates? Seduction doesn't always whisper. Sometimes it vanishes. The most powerful message isn't always spoken. It's the space that follows what could have been said. Silence, when deliberate, is not emptiness, it's architecture. It's the invisible frame that makes every word, every glance, every moment more vivid. Absence has texture. It stretches time, slows the heartbeat, and lets imagination take control. When someone disappears, not ghosting but retreating with intent, they activate one of the oldest forces in human psychology, curiosity. The brain hates an unfinished story. It starts filling in gaps, assigning meaning, replaying moments. Did I say something wrong? Are they losing interest? What are they thinking? The silence becomes a mirror for obsession. But absence, like any power, depends on timing. Withdraw too soon and you seem cold. Stay too long and you vanish completely. The silent invitation is a balance. It leaves just enough echo to remind them of your presence, but not enough to satisfy it. The goal is tension, not disappearance. You're not leaving to escape. You're leaving to expand the space in which you exist. Think about music. Notes matter, yes, but the pauses make the melody. A piece with no silence is just noise. The same is true for seduction. When you speak too much, reveal too much, appear too available, you erase the rhythm of desire. Desire is born from distance. It's the heartbeat between contact and restraint. Every absence you create should serve a purpose. Maybe it's to reset a dynamic that's moving too fast. Maybe it's to remind someone that access to you is earned, not assumed. Or maybe it's to let them feel what life is like without your presence, a soft emptiness that redefines your value. Silence turns memory into longing. In modern life, absence is rare. Everyone's online, reachable, visible. That's why withdrawal feels like power. In a culture of constant noise, silence becomes elite. When you stop responding, you break the pattern the other person depends on for emotional stability. They start reaching, guessing, chasing. They don't realize they're not chasing you anymore. They're chasing the version of themselves that felt secure when you replied. That's the difference between connection and control. Connection feeds both. Control starves one to make the other hungry. There's a phrase in dark psychology: predictability kills passion. Once someone knows your rhythm, they stop imagining. Seduction thrives in irregularity, not chaos, contrast. Speak when it matters, vanish when it deepens the meaning. You're not punishing, you're sculpting attention. But the silent invitation must never be cruel. Silence can wound just as easily as it can magnetize. It becomes dark, destructive, when used to punish or humiliate. When silence replaces communication out of ego, it kills trust instead of creating attraction. The goal is not to make them feel small. It's to make the space between you feel alive. Here's the key distinction. Disengagement without closure fuels curiosity. Disengagement with cruelty breeds resentment. Leave gaps, not scars. When you disappear, make sure it's with grace, with an energy that says, "I'm choosing calm, not revenge." People can sense the difference. The first invites them closer. The second warns them away forever. If you want to master silence, learn pacing. In text, that might mean pausing before replying. Not hours, but minutes that stretch enough to reset attention. In speech, it's the unhurried pause before your answer, the deep breath before the next question. In presence, it's holding your posture steady when others fidget. Silence expands your gravity because it signals one thing: control. Watch how powerful people use it. They rarely rush to fill gaps. They know silence makes others reveal themselves. When you can stay comfortable in pauses, you become the listener everyone wants approval from. Because comfort in silence equals emotional confidence, and emotional confidence equals authority. In seduction, the silent invitation whispers, "I am not chasing you. You are welcome to step closer if you wish." That subtle reversal turns the dynamic inside out. You no longer perform for attention. You become the stage others perform upon. But to hold this power, your absence must come from fullness, not emptiness. If you vanish out of insecurity, people feel it. If you withdraw because you're afraid your silence rings hollow. True absence radiates calm assurance, the kind that says, "I don't need to prove, I only need to be." That's when silence becomes an aura, not avoidance. So, practice restraint. Don't reply instantly. Don't explain everything. Don't narrate your emotions like a running broadcast. Let mystery breathe. Let people feel the weight of your quiet. They'll start searching for meaning in the spaces you leave behind. And that search is the heartbeat of attraction. Because in the art of dark seduction, the loudest statement you can make isn't what you say, it's what you withhold. These words you don't speak, the messages you don't send, the meetings you delay, those are the shadows that define your shape. Absence, when done with intention, doesn't push people away. It pulls them closer through longing. It teaches them to listen harder, look deeper, and crave what they can't quite reach. It's not coldness, it's command. It's saying without saying, "If you want me, come find me, but I won't shout my location." And when they do come closer, when they've crossed the silence you built between you, the moment will feel electric. Not because of what you say, but because they've earned the sound of your voice again. Chapter 5. The Mask and the Mirror. Persona as seduction armor. Everyone wears a mask. Some wear it to hide, others to command. The difference between the weak and the powerful isn't whether they're authentic, it's how consciously they choose their disguise. Seduction begins where identity becomes deliberate. We grow up being told that honesty is the purest virtue, that showing who you really are is the highest form of connection. But truth, raw and unfiltered, doesn't seduce. It overwhelms. The human mind doesn't fall for what's transparent. It falls for what's framed. The seducer understands this instinctively. The mask isn't a lie, it's a lens. A persona, when crafted well, isn't deception. It's composition. It's the version of you that magnifies your most magnetic traits and edits out the noise. Think of it like stage lighting. It doesn't invent the performer, it reveals them in a specific color. You choose the mood you cast. The dark seducer knows how to use persona as armor, how to reveal emotion strategically without being exposed. They understand that most people don't want to know your soul. They want to experience a reflection of their own. And that's the key. You don't seduce by being yourself. You seduce by becoming their mirror. When someone looks into you and sees who they wish to be, they fall in love. When they look in and see your chaos unfiltered, they retreat. The art is in giving them enough reflection to feel seen, while keeping your core untouched. In psychological terms, this is projection management. People will always project fantasies, fears, and desires onto you. You can either drown in those projections or learn to shape them. The persona is how you curate what others see. You can't control their imagination, but you can give it direction. Consider the classic archetypes of allure: the femme fatale, the mysterious poet, the stoic leader, the gentle intellectual. None of these are false, they're distilled. They are aspects of truth designed for maximum psychological effect. The seducer wears each like a costume, not to deceive, but to orchestrate emotional tone. Because in seduction, truth without mystery is static. It ends the story. But when you wear your truth like silk instead of steel, soft, textured, slightly translucent, it invites touch. It suggests more beneath the surface. That's the mask's real function. Not to hide the face, but to make the face unforgettable. But the mask is not enough. You must learn to mirror. The mirror is empathy without surrender. When you can reflect someone's energy, rhythm, and emotional vocabulary back to them, they feel seen at a primal level. You speak their hidden language, their defenses fall. They call it chemistry, but it's precision. You've matched their emotional wavelength, and in that resonance, control is born. Mirroring is not mimicry. It's not copying gestures or parroting words. It's reading frequency. If they speak in chaos, you answer in calm. If they lead with pride, you answer with respect. If they crave admiration, you give subtle awe. You become what their psyche is missing. Not by pretending, but by adjusting tone, energy, and timing. You make them feel completed in your presence. Yet the danger of this power is identity erosion. The more skilled you become at mirroring, the easier it is to forget where the mask ends and you begin. Many manipulators lose themselves that way. They fall into their own performance, seducing everyone except themselves. That's why true mastery requires reflection after performance. When you leave the stage, you remove the mask. You return to stillness. That's what keeps you real, what keeps the persona from becoming possession. In a world where everyone is shouting authenticity, the rarest form of power is discretion, the ability to choose what to reveal and when to reveal it. A mystery protected by consistency. That's why the most magnetic people seem effortlessly composed. They've rehearsed their chaos until it looks like grace. You don't owe anyone your rawness. Not every emotion deserves exposure. Some truths are sacred because they are private. The mask doesn't make you fake. It makes you safe, and from that safety, you can project whatever emotion serves the moment. In Dark Seduction, the persona isn't armor against connection. It's armor that enables it. People can't fall for what overwhelms them. They fall for what they can almost understand. Your mask creates that boundary. Your mirror fills it with meaning. Together, they form a magnetic paradox. Distance and intimacy, mystery and recognition, control and surrender. So wear your mask deliberately. Polish your mirror carefully. Let people see what you choose, not what they demand. Reveal like the moon, never all at once, never in full daylight, always enough to be worshipped, never enough to be owned, because the mask you choose doesn't hide you from the world. It reveals the version of you the world is ready to desire. And in that deliberate reflection lies the oldest form of power: fascination. Chapter 6. Tactical vulnerability, the weaponization of softness. Not all power comes from dominance. Some of the most dangerous control begins with softness, with the open eyes, the tremble in the voice, the story that invites sympathy. Vulnerability, when used strategically, is one of the most disarming tools in the art of dark seduction. It lowers defenses faster than charm, faster than logic, faster than beauty, because the human mind is wired to protect what looks breakable. When someone exposes their pain, we lean in. We want to understand, to help, to heal. And that's the trap. The more you invest emotionally, the easier you are to guide. The dark seducer knows this. They understand that nothing enslaves like empathy. Real tears create real obedience, but not all tears are honest. Some are weapons. Tactical vulnerability is not lying about weakness. It's choosing which weakness to reveal for maximum effect. It's selective openness, a confession designed to earn trust, to fast-track intimacy, to make others drop their guard. The story is true enough to feel authentic, but controlled enough to steer emotion. It's the psychological equivalent of leaving the door cracked just wide enough to make someone push it open. Think of the person who shares a heartbreak on the first conversation, the colleague who opens up about burnout during a project, the lover who reveals childhood trauma in the second week. It feels deep, it feels special. You think you're seeing their soul. But what you're really seeing is a carefully curated vulnerability, a key designed to fit the lock of your empathy. The cue. Mind confuses vulnerability with safety. When someone opens up, it triggers our instinct to reciprocate. You share something too, hoping to match the depth. And suddenly, the balance has shifted. They now hold your secrets, your emotional leverage. You're bonded, and bonds, once formed, are difficult to break, even when the other person stops deserving them. But the real power of tactical vulnerability is in rhythm. It's not the initial confession, it's how it's followed by silence. They share something raw, then retreat. You feel compelled to fill the space, to comfort, to prove you're trustworthy. That's how control is built. Not through force, but through emotional gravity. You step closer willingly. None of this means vulnerability is evil. It's the misuse that's dangerous. True vulnerability connects. Tactical vulnerability manipulates. One says, "Here I am." The other says, "Here's what you need to see to serve my plan." The difference is intent. One seeks truth, the other seeks influence. You can see tactical vulnerability in relationships that move too fast. People who say, "I've never felt this close to anyone before," after a few days. The seducer accelerates emotional intimacy before trust can mature. Why? Because speed creates illusion. The faster you bond, the less you question. The brain mistakes intensity for authenticity. So how do you protect yourself? By slowing down your empathy. When someone opens up too soon, don't rush to mirror it. Listen, but don't match. Real connection unfolds. False connection accelerates. Ask yourself, did they earn this level of trust, or did they perform it? The art of dark seduction. Timing is everything. Reveal too much too early and you lose mystery. Reveal nothing and you seem cold. The master seducer uses vulnerability like perfume, noticeable, alluring, but never overwhelming. A trace, not a cloud. Enough to suggest depth without drowning in it. And when you use vulnerability ethically, it becomes power in another way. It builds connection through shared humanity, not manipulation. It disarms without deceit. The key difference? Honesty without agenda. You reveal to connect, not to control. Still, it's naive to think all vulnerability is pure. Some people build entire empires on fragility. The helpless tone, the trembling words, the victim posture. They all trigger the rescuer reflex. You start doing their emotional labor, defending them, excusing their behavior. And before long, their weakness controls your strength. The countermeasure is simple, though not easy. Stay grounded. When emotion spikes, yours or theirs, pause. Ask, what happens if I don't rescue them right now? True vulnerability welcomes space. False vulnerability panics without it. If you want to master seduction, learn to play with your own vulnerability without becoming addicted to sympathy. Share softly. Retreat gently. Let your openness be earned. Vulnerability is strongest when it's deliberate, not desperate. When it's a choice, not a leak. Because the paradox is this: the person who can reveal pain without collapsing into it becomes irresistible. They radiate courage, not neediness. That's the kind of vulnerability that seduces without enslaving. It says, I can bleed and still stand. And that's power. The quiet kind that doesn't ask for pity, but commands respect. So use your softness wisely. Let it draw people near, but never let it chain you to their approval. Vulnerability, when unguarded, can destroy you. But when refined, when worn like silk over armor, it becomes the most elegant weapon of all, the weapon that kills without hatred, the smile that conquers without shouting, the moment of truth that says, softly but unmistakably, you don't need to fear me to follow me. You just need to believe I've let you in. Chapter 7. The Gift of Confusion. Keeping others off balance. Certainty is comfort, and comfort is control, just not yours. When people think they know exactly where they stand with you, they stop trying. They relax, settle, and drift into emotional autopilot. Predictability kills fascination. It softens your edges and turns your mystery into routine. That's why the dark seducer never lets the other person find full balance. Confusion, when applied with care, is not cruelty, it's chemistry. It's the tension that keeps connection alive. Confusion makes people think, and thinking makes people feel. The brain craves closure. It wants every story finished, every signal explained. But the seducer offers half answers, partial truths, gestures that can be read two ways. Each ambiguity becomes a spark, forcing the other person to participate, to decode, to imagine. And imagination is where desire lives. This isn't about deception, it's about rhythm. Confusion must be gentle, never violent. The goal isn't chaos, it's curiosity. You tilt the frame just enough that they lean forward. You send warmth, then pause. You reveal something deep, then disappear for a moment. You give certainty, just long enough to make its absence noticeable. The alternation, safety then mystery, is the engine of obsession. Think about how stories work. If you knew every twist from the first page, you'd stop reading. Seduction is the same. Too much. Clarity kills suspense. Too much stability dulls emotional contrast. The dark artist of attraction knows this instinctively. They never reveal their full hand. Their words mean more than one thing. Their intentions shimmer like light through smoke. You think you understand them, and then suddenly you don't. And in that gap you fall deeper. In relationships, this shows up as emotional pacing. One night they're warm, attentive, almost vulnerable. The next, distant, quiet, self-contained. You start chasing that warmth again, wondering what changed. Nothing did. The fluctuation is the design. The unpredictability doesn't show instability. It shows control. They're setting the tempo. And you're dancing to their beat even when you think you're leading. But let's be clear, confusion without empathy is cruelty. The ethical use of this power lies in intention. When wielded wisely, it keeps relationships alive, dynamic, electric. When wielded cruelly, it breeds anxiety, trauma, and dependence. The dark seducer who masters confusion understands proportion. Enough to intrigue, never enough to destroy. Here's how it sounds in practice. A sentence with two meanings, a look that lasts slightly too long, a withdrawal that arrives just as things felt secure. Each moment plants a question instead of an answer, and every question is a hook in the mind. What did they mean by that? Do they like me or not? Are they testing me? That uncertainty becomes emotional motion, the heart trying. To solve what the mind can't. Confusion, in its refined form, is energy control. You shift tempo, tone, and attention to break expectations. You become the unpredictable variable in someone's emotional equation they can't quite forecast. And that makes them return, trying again and again to solve your pattern. They confuse unpredictability with depth, complexity with importance. And in a sense, they're right. To master this art, you must first master your own clarity. You can't wield confusion if you live in it. The manipulator who confuses themselves becomes chaotic, not magnetic. Your power lies in precision, knowing exactly when to step close and when to pull away, when to speak and when to vanish, when to answer and when to let the question echo. Consider this: when people argue, they fear, do it to restore order. When you stay calm, quiet, ambiguous, the other person must reach for understanding. You control the tempo by refusing to provide it. The silence after an unexpected statement can be louder than the statement itself. That's how you bend focus without saying another word. The same applies in conversation. Don't fill every silence. Let your pauses stretch until they ache. Don't explain every emotion, imply it. Ambiguity forces imagination, and imagination is more seductive than confession. Say something simple but weighted. Maybe you're right. It's complicated. I don't always show what I feel. These phrases don't close loops, they open them, but confusion is only seductive when it leads somewhere. You must offer just enough resolution to reward the chase. Too much uncertainty becomes fatigue. The art is in the pattern. Tension, release, tension again. Give them small victories, moments where they feel they've understood you, then shift the frame again. The rhythm keeps them engaged without exhausting them. In this way, confusion becomes generosity. You give them the thrill of pursuit. You allow them to discover parts of you, real or imagined, piece by piece. Every revelation feels earned, and what's earned feels sacred. Never underestimate how powerful this is. In a world addicted to answers, the one who makes people question becomes unforgettable. You're not confusing them to hurt them. You're confusing them to make them awake. Every flicker of uncertainty heightens awareness, attention, memory. They won't forget the person who made them feel that alive. So use confusion like perfume. Subtle, invisible but unmistakable. One drop too much and it suffocates, just enough and it lingers long after you've left the room. And when they finally think they've figured you out, smile, softly, knowingly, and change the rhythm again. That's not cruelty. That's mastery, because seduction doesn't end with understanding, it ends with wonder. Chapter 8. Power in Patience. The Psychology of Delayed Reward. Patience is not passive. It's a weapon that hides in plain sight, a calm that unsettles those addicted to immediacy. In seduction, in manipulation, in persuasion, patience is the quietest form of dominance. It doesn't chase, it waits, and in waiting it gains control. We live in a culture built on urgency. Reply now, decide now, buy now. Every system is designed to provoke speed, because speed weakens judgment. The impatient are predictable. The patient are terrifying. Patience means you can sit inside uncertainty without needing to end it. That's how control begins, not through action, but through restraint. The most powerful seducers understand this instinctively. They don't rush attention, they make it mature. They stretch time like a bowstring, building tension that hums beneath every interaction. They know that anticipation is more addictive than gratification. What's delayed becomes desired. What's given instantly becomes ordinary. Think about every moment of high attraction you've ever felt. It was never in the kiss. It was in the pause before it, the eyes that almost met, the space between breaths, the feeling that something was about to happen but hadn't yet. That's not chance. That's design. The dark seducer engineers that space deliberately because desire needs oxygen, and oxygen is time. Patience is psychological leverage. When you slow the tempo, others reveal themselves. They rush to fill your silence, to bridge the gap, to prove interest. Every pause becomes a test of their impulse control and a mirror for yours. Whoever needs resolution first loses power. The one who can wait becomes the axis around which the interaction spins. Delayed reward is not just manipulation, it's magnetism. The mind loves tension. Every unresolved stimulus leaves a trace, a craving for completion. When you respond instantly, you give closure. When you withhold, you open loops. And every open loop keeps you alive in their mind. The trick is balance. Too much delay breeds frustration, too little breeds boredom. The sweet spot is suspense. In conversation, this might mean pausing before you answer. Let your gaze linger a beat longer than expected. In text, it's responding. With rhythm, never too fast, never too late. In presence, it's moving slower than the room. The world adjusts to your pace. That's what patience looks like from the outside. Gravity. People start sinking to your tempo without realizing it. But patience isn't only external. It's internal mastery. It's learning to let your emotions simmer without reacting, to feel anger, attraction, anxiety, and still wait. The world mistakes waiting for weakness, but only because it doesn't understand control. Waiting is what wolves do before they strike. In relationships, patience is the difference between addiction and attachment. Addiction needs immediate feedback, texts, calls, reassurance. Attachment can breathe. When you stop feeding constant attention, you trigger reflection in others. They start to miss you, to wonder, to invest energy imagining your return. That's how space turns into intimacy. It gives the other person room to crave you, and when you finally reappear, the impact doubles. What's withheld gains symbolic weight. The same word, the same touch means more after absence. This is why the most powerful people don't speak often, but when they do, the world listens. The gap between words gives them force. Patience is not indifference. Indifference kills connection. Patience deepens it. It says, I can wait because I trust my effect. That confidence radiates authority. The insecure act to keep attention. The powerful pause to let attention grow. There's also a deeper layer to this, patience as emotional self-defense. When others rush you into love, into decisions, into confession, they're trying to control the tempo. Speed is pressure disguised as intimacy. Slow it down. When you stretch time, manipulation loses footing. No one can corner a person who doesn't mind waiting, so practice this in small ways. Let messages sit unread for a moment. Count to 3 before you speak. Delay gratification in every form. Pleasure, praise, reaction. Watch how the world starts adjusting to you. You'll notice that people begin offering more, talking more, explaining more. You've taken control simply by refusing to hurry. Patience is seductive because it communicates abundance. The one who can wait is the one who doesn't fear loss. And fearlessness is magnetic. You can't fake it. It's born from internal fullness. The quiet knowing that what's meant for you doesn't need chasing. The psychology of delayed reward is simple, but brutal. Tension amplifies value. The more someone waits for you, the more importance they assign to you. Not because you're scarce, but because their mind has invested time, and time turns curiosity into meaning. In the end, patience isn't stillness, it's choreography. Every pause, every delay, every unhurried motion is a signal that says, I control the pace here. The impatient may grab attention for a moment, but the patient own it forever. So let the world rush. Let others trip over their urgency. Sit still. Smile faintly. Say less, move slower. The universe will bend its rhythm around you, because time, when mastered, isn't a current, it's a crown. Chapter 9. The Puppeteer's Touch. Micro-expressions and body language control. Every movement speaks. Every glance, every breath, every stillness is language written in muscle and microseconds. Most people never notice the code. They feel it, but they don't see it. The dark seducer does. To them, bodies are conversations, and every reaction is a line in a script. The power lies not only in reading that script, but in rewriting it. Live through your own presence. When we meet someone, the body speaks before the mouth ever does. Pupils dilate, shoulders angle, chests open or close, breaths sink. You've seen it. Two people leaning slightly toward each other without knowing, a small mirror dance of trust forming subconsciously. This is the language of the body's ancient brain. It can't lie, it reacts faster than thought. A seducer fluent in that language doesn't persuade with words. They direct emotion through motion. They start by observing. The eyes first. Always the eyes. Not their color, but their rhythm. Do they dart, scan, hold? Fast eyes belong to restless minds. Slow eyes belong to focused ones. Watch where they look after laughing. People always glance toward what matters. Most to them. Then posture. Most think dominance is in height, but it's in gravity. The more secure you are, the lower your center. You move from the hips, not the shoulders. You plant your feet, not your words. The nervous sway, the shifting weight, the tapping fingers, all small leaks of inner turbulence. The seducer stills these leaks until their calm becomes contagious. People breathe slower around someone grounded. Calm bodies lead chaotic ones. Touch, this is the puppeteer's thread, not sensual but suggestive. A brief graze on the elbow during laughter, a hand on the table near theirs, a pause before contact, all choreographed microsignals that communicate dominance and intimacy at once. The trick isn't frequency, it's precision. One well-timed touch has more power than a dozen careless ones. Mirroring amplifies this. Humans crave sameness, it signals safety. When you subtly echo someone's movements, crossing your legs seconds after they do, matching their tone, their pace, you speak to their limbic system. We belong to the same tribe. They won't know why they trust you, only that they do. And once they trust, their body follows your lead. But here's the deeper layer. Control doesn't come from imitation, but initiation. After mirroring them long enough to build unconscious rapport, you shift. You lead a gesture. Lean back, slow your breathing, glance away. If they follow, they've yielded. It's not hypnosis, it's biology. The body always seeks harmony. Whoever sets the rhythm becomes the conductor. Micro-expressions are the heartbeat beneath this orchestra. Tiny involuntary flashes that betray emotion before the mind can hide it. A half-second tightening of the lips, a micro-raise of the inner eyebrow, a split smile that doesn't reach the eyes. These are truths leaking through the mask. The seducer learns to see them, not by staring, but by soft focus. You catch the flicker in the periphery, like movement in the dark. You store it quietly. They flinched at that name. Their eyes cooled at that word. Knowledge gathered invisibly becomes influence later. The puppeteer's art isn't domination, it's synchronization. You don't force people into compliance. You make compliance feel natural. When your energy matches and then leads theirs, they feel both safe and guided. You create a dance in which they think they're following instinct, but it's your rhythm they're obeying. Even silence has posture. Leaning slightly forward signals curiosity. Leaning back signals authority. The tilt of your head, the slowness of your blink, the depth of your exhale, all shape emotion without a word. People read you like weather. If you can control your atmosphere, you can control their mood. But power corrupts quickly here. Use it recklessly, and you cross from influence into manipulation. The ethical line is intention. If you're shaping comfort, connection, confidence, you're leading. If you're shaping fear, insecurity, confusion, you're puppeteering for power alone. The latter may work fast, but it always decays. Fear-based control breeds rebellion. Presence-based control breeds loyalty. Practice this awareness in every space. Watch how a room shifts when someone confident walks in. The subtle tightening of shoulders, the collective glance, the hush of attention. That's energy leadership. You can cultivate it deliberately. Lower your voice instead of raising it. Move slowly when others rush. Hold eye contact a heartbeat longer than comfort allows. Every second of composure becomes command. And here's the paradox. The body you control becomes the body that controls others. Emotional regulation radiates outward. When you master your micro-expressions, no twitch, no flinch, no fidget, you become unreadable, yet magnetic. The world starts adjusting to you because at the highest level, the puppeteer no longer pulls strings, they become gravity. Their gestures, pauses, and glances don't force, they invite. And people follow not because they're tricked, but because it feels right. So study your hands, tame your breath, move with intent. Let stillness be your authority, and warmth. Be your camouflage. Every muscle, every glance, every silence can serve a purpose, if you know how to listen first. In the end, the art of body control is not about pretending. It's about awareness so deep that every motion becomes language, every breath a message. Speak through presence, command through calm, touch through energy. Because the most powerful puppeteer never needs strings, the world moves for them by instinct. Chapter 10. The Echo Effect. How to imitate souls to control them. No one falls in love with you. They fall in love with the version of themselves they see reflected in you. That's the quiet secret behind charisma, leadership, and seduction. You become the echo of their unspoken self. The echo effect is ancient. It's the art of psychological mimicry, not imitation of gestures or phrases, but resonance of identity. You listen so deeply, so completely, that you begin to speak in someone else's emotional language. They feel understood without ever having to explain. To them you become home, and home is the most dangerous place for power to hide. It begins with listening, but not the shallow kind that waits to reply. You listen for frequency, the rhythm beneath their words. Every person carries a private vibration, the cadence of their fears, the tempo of their confidence, the pitch of their need for validation. You tune to that frequency, match it, and feed it back softly. Not as mockery, but as empathy weaponized. They won't hear the reflection, but they'll feel it. The echo effect is how cult leaders gain devotion, how lovers forge bonds that outlast logic, how manipulators make their victims defend them. The technique is simple, but its effect is chemical. The brain confuses recognition with safety. When someone mirrors your emotional tone, oxytocin floods your system. You call it connection. Your biology calls it survival. To practice it, you begin small. Mirror their pace of speech, their energy level. If they speak softly, soften too. If they lean forward, let your body follow a second later. If they share frustration, match its tone without competing. People don't want advice when they're emotional. They want alignment. Once you've matched, you can guide. You lead them out of anxiety into calm simply by shifting your energy and watching their nervous system recalibrate in real time. That's the essence of control, leading someone's body before they notice you've touched their mind. But the echo effect isn't just physical, it's emotional architecture. You start reflecting their worldview. You use their metaphors, their humor, their values. When they speak of duty, you speak of honor. When they speak of dreams, you speak of possibility. They begin to feel you're the only one who gets it, because you sound like the voice in their own head. You've become their emotional doppelganger. And that's when loyalty turns blind. This is the moment to tread carefully, because the line between empathy and possession is thin. To echo is to hold a mirror. To control is to replace it. If you lose awareness, you'll begin performing people instead of understanding them. You'll forget your own voice under the chorus of theirs. True mastery is being the mirror, not becoming the reflection. Used ethically, the echo effect heals. It calms conflict, builds bridges, and makes others feel deeply seen. Used darkly, it enslaves. So it's how abusers rewrite identities, slowly, gently, by reflecting, until the victim can no longer tell which emotions belong to whom. They start asking, what do I really think? And the answer always sounds like you. The echo works best in rhythm, mirror, lead, retreat. If you stay too long in imitation, people sense something uncanny. If you retreat too quickly, the spell breaks. But in the right dose, it feels like destiny. You understand me better than anyone, they'll say. They're not wrong. They've met themselves in your eyes. To protect yourself from others who use this, you must know your own tone, your rhythm, your story. People who don't know their sound are easiest to echo. They adapt to whoever listens hardest. But when you live in your own frequency, mimicry doesn't hypnotize you. It irritates you. You'll feel when something is off, because their rhythm won't fit yours. The ethical practitioner of this art uses it as empathy with awareness. You enter their emotional weather, walk them through the storm, and leave them stronger. The manipulator uses it as camouflage, entering their weather to build a house inside it and lock the doors. Remember, the one who listens owns the conversation. When you speak, you reveal your position. When you listen deeply, you reveal nothing, but you learn everything. You learn what they want to hear, and later, you give it back to them shaped like destiny. But true mastery lies in restraint. Don't echo everyone. Choose carefully. Because the more people you mirror, the thinner your reflection becomes. Preserve this depth of empathy for where influence matters. Save your mimicry for the moments that shape outcomes, not the ones that fill silence, because the echo effect is intoxicating. Once you learn it, you can make anyone feel seen. But the goal is not to collect souls, it's to communicate power without sound. To remind people wordlessly that they are safe in your presence, safe enough to follow, to open, to surrender. In the end, the greatest seducers don't speak the loudest truths. They whisper people's own truths back to them in a tone so familiar it feels divine. That's not magic. That's precision. That's psychology turned mirror. And the reflection they fall for is themselves. Chapter 11. Addictive Love. The chemistry of emotional dependency. Every addiction begins with pleasure. No one becomes enslaved to pain right away. They get hooked on the high. Love, when turned dark, follows the same formula. It begins with dopamine and ends with withdrawal. You don't fall in love with a person. You fall in love with how they make your brain feel. That's the secret the dark seducer knows too well. Addictive love is chemistry disguised as connection. It starts with intensity, an avalanche of attention, laughter, shared secrets, late-night messages, the feeling of finally being seen. It's the psychological version of a drug's first hit. Euphoric, blinding, transcendent. Your nervous system floods with dopamine, oxytocin, and adrenaline. You're alive, alert, glowing. The world sharpens around that one person. But every chemical high demands balance. The body can't sustain euphoria forever, so the seducer pulls away just slightly. They delay a reply, withdraw affection, become suddenly busy. The absence feels unbearable because your brain has already built expectation loops. You crave the next hit of their attention. You begin to chase it, and just like that, you're addicted. This push-pull dynamic is deliberate. It's not random mood swings, it's conditioning. Reward followed by deprivation. Warmth followed by cold. It's the same principle casinos use, intermittent reinforcement. You never know when the reward will come, so you keep trying. Every message, every gesture, every silence becomes loaded with meaning. You tell yourself you're in love, but biologically you're gambling. Addictive love doesn't feel toxic at first. It feels like destiny. It feels like you've found your missing half. That's because addiction feels like purpose. It gives you something to pursue, something to obsess over. But the seducer knows the truth. When they can make you need them to feel good, they don't need to control you directly. You'll do it yourself. Over time, the body adjusts. The dopamine spikes shrink. The withdrawals grow sharper. You start rationalizing behavior that once would have repelled you. You say things like, they're just stressed, or they love me, they just have a hard time showing it. That's not love, that's dependency speaking. The brain, starving for reward, defends the very system that's starving it. This isn't just romance, it happens in friendships, workplaces, even families. The manipulator gives you recognition, then removes it. Praise, then silence. Intimacy, then distance. You start performing for the next wave of warmth, even if it costs your peace. That's not devotion, it's dopamine debt. The terrifying thing about addictive love is how similar it looks to passion. The butterflies, the obsession, the sleeplessness, they all mirror excitement. But real love soothes. Addiction agitates. One makes you stronger, the other makes you shrink. The difference lies in your nervous system. If someone makes you feel anxious more than safe, tense more than inspired, you're not in love, you're in withdrawal. The seducer doesn't have to be cruel. Sometimes they don't even realize what they're doing. They've just learned instinctively how to create dependency through rhythm, contrast, and scarcity. They sense when to give and when to vanish. Their unpredictability becomes your obsession. You call it chemistry, but it's control. Breaking the spell requires brutal awareness. You have to see the cycle for what it is, a pattern of reward and deprivation designed to keep you craving. When you stop reacting, the power drains. Silence starves manipulation. Indifference ends addiction. But the withdrawal will hurt, because you're not just losing a person, you're detoxing from a chemical loop. Here's the truth most people avoid. Love without boundaries becomes worship, and worship always ends in ruin. You can admire someone, desire them, care for them, but if you start needing them to regulate your mood, you've given away your sovereignty. That's when they own you. The way out is through rebalancing your chemistry. Reclaim solitude. Slow down your stimuli. Fill your life with small, consistent joys. Reading, walking, creating. Rewire your brain to find satisfaction in stability instead of chaos. The manipulator's power fades when you no longer need the storm to feel alive. And one day, you'll look back and realize something chilling. They never had power over you. They just understood your biology better than you did. Real love doesn't manipulate your brain, it expands it. It doesn't trap you in loops, it frees you from them. It's calm, not consuming. It's not a drug, it's oxygen. So the next time you feel that intoxicating pull towards someone, pause. Ask yourself, am I being seen or am I being fed? Because one nourishes you, the other drains you beautifully, slowly, completely, and the dark seducer smiles because they know the most addictive thing in the world isn't pleasure. It's relief after pain they created. Chapter 12. Breaking the Spell. Escaping emotional manipulation without losing compassion. Freedom doesn't begin when you walk away. It begins when you see clearly. Most people think manipulation ends when the manipulator leaves. It doesn't. It ends when their voice stops echoing inside your head. When the apology you never got no longer matters. When you stop rehearsing conversations that never happened. That's when the spell finally breaks. But breaking free from emotional manipulation is not about vengeance. It's about reclamation. The manipulator wins as long as you stay reactive, even if you're angry. Indifference, not revenge, is the real escape. Because manipulation doesn't live in the world. It lives in your nervous system. It's the anxiety that spikes when you disappoint someone. The guilt that follows a no. The reflex to explain yourself before you've even done something wrong. Those aren't habits. They're programming. To unlearn it, you must first forgive yourself for being controlled. You weren't weak. You were human. Manipulation doesn't work because people are stupid. It works because people crave love, understanding, and peace. The manipulator offers all three, then uses them as leverage. The cure isn't to harden, it's to learn how to love with armor on. The first step is recognition. Stop romanticizing emotional depth that leaves you drained. Stop calling anxiety chemistry. Stop confusing chaos with passion. Emotional manipulation hides behind flattering words. We're just intense. You make me act this way. You're the only one who understands me. Strip away the poetry and you'll find control. Every time someone uses emotion to steer your choices, that's manipulation in silk. The next step is distance. Distance is medicine. It clears the static and shows you what was real and what was engineered. But distance is hard because silence exposes addiction. You'll crave contact like oxygen. Your mind will invent reasons to reach out. Don't let the silence ache. That ache is detox. And every day you don't respond, the spell loses power. Then comes the rebuilding. You start small. Routines, sleep, walks, nourishment. You give your nervous system something predictable, something safe. Manipulation thrives in chaos. Healing thrives in rhythm. Slowly you'll find that your body no longer flinches at peace. Calm will stop feeling suspicious. That's how you know the program is fading. Compassion is your final test. You'll want to hate them, but hate is still a tether. It binds you through opposition. Let them fade into irrelevance instead. You don't need to forgive them for their sake. You forgive so your mind can stop orbiting around what broke you. True power is walking away without ceremony. And here's the paradox. Escaping manipulation without losing compassion doesn't mean trusting everyone again. It means trusting your perception. The manipulator taught you to doubt your instincts, to believe that your feelings were exaggerations. Reclaim that sense of inner authority. Your body always knew when something felt wrong. You just learned to ignore it. Listen again. The truth was never silent. You were just too busy explaining yourself to hear it. Once you're free, you'll start seeing patterns everywhere. How politics uses fear. How advertising uses scarcity. How toxic people use guilt. Don't let that make you cynical. Let it make you awake. Awareness without bitterness is wisdom. You'll realize that manipulation is not rare. It's the default language of power. But understanding it makes you fluent in your own defense. Compassion doesn't mean reopening the door. It means understanding that some people can't love without control. You walk away not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring for yourself too. There's a calm that follows healing, an almost holy silence. It's the absence of performance, the end of pretending. It's waking up one morning and realizing your mind is quiet again. No loops, no longing, no waiting for the next apology that never comes. Just space. And in that space, you rediscover something the manipulator could never touch, your ability to give without losing yourself, to love without bending, to listen without absorbing. That's the true opposite of manipulation. Not power, not armor, but clarity. So breathe. Feel the weight leave. The world doesn't need another cynic. It needs someone who knows darkness and still chooses to stay kind. Someone who understands games but refuses to play them. Because that's the final transformation, turning awareness into wisdom, not vengeance. Seeing the puppets, the strings, the hands that pull, and smiling because you no longer move when they do, you are free now. Not untouched, not unscarred, but awake. And in the light of that awareness, no one can ever hypnotize you again. And now you've reached the silence after the storm, the moment when the voice fades and all that's left is thought. If something inside you stirred, if you caught your own reflection in the darkness we explored, that means you were paying attention. Awareness is the first antidote to control. You've seen how charm becomes power, how love becomes leverage, how silence becomes command. You've walked through every layer of the shadow and come out on the other side, not unharmed, but awake. So take this calm with you. Let it sharpen your eyes and steady your heartbeat. You don't need to become darker to understand darkness. You just need to stop fearing it. If this journey made you pause, question, or recognize something you couldn't name before, stay with us. Subscribe to Dark Psyche Vision and keep walking with those who see the unseen. Tap like so this message reaches someone still trapped in the spell. Share it with the one person who needs to remember that awareness is freedom. And when the noise of the world grows too loud, come back. Here we speak the language of silence, the kind that unmasks, heals, and transforms. This was the Art of Dark Seduction. Until next time, stay curious, stay conscious, and never be controlled.